to the Food Startups Podcast, connecting the opaque world of food startups.
Hello, and welcome to the 67th episode of the Food Startups Podcast. Now, I'm really excited today because, the last episode, our last interview, I should say, was with Bob Moore of Bob's Red Mill. And, he's 86 and still thriving. And I'm kind of turning the tables this time, and we're going to interview a young maple syrup entrepreneur who's expanded nationally already. And he's only 17 years old. So we're kind of hitting so far, the oldest and the youngest guest on our show. And this is a great interview. I just listened to it, and I'm recording this intro now. Fantastic. I mean, I really admire this guy, and, you can see big things going for him, and you're going to learn a lot about how he got his business started. And he has a really, really clear sense of what needs to be done. And he understands the way grocery buyers think and retail buyers think and the challenges of his business at such a young age. So I'm really excited to have him. So again, this is Josh Parker from Parker Maple Farm, and enjoy the show. He saw his future in the maple syrup industry at the young age of 11. While on a school field trip to a local sugar house, he could see himself making and branding his own maple syrup product. Starting with just 15 trees and 1 pint of syrup boiled down on his mom's kitchen stove, his dream became a reality. 5 years later, he received investment to expand operations, and today he is 17 and he has over 60 acres of land where he makes the maple syrup from the sap of the trees. It's one of the fastest growing maple enterprises in the nation. Parker Maple Farm LLC, they have expanded sales into all 50 states, and they're trying to capture more of the market. I met Josh at Expo East, and he was there busy making sales. Joshua Parker. We'll go with Josh, right?
Yes, yeah, Josh.
Okay. Joshua is the grandma name, right? Matthew, so everyone calls me Matt. So Josh, tell us about Expo East. What was the goals going into the show, and how did things work out?
Yeah, so the goal going into Expo East was really to try to find some big contracts, some big sales. I'm a full-time student at Clarkson University, so I have a hard time focusing on the small stores and trying to get maybe 1,000 stores to get into. But if I could find 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 big stores that could buy large volumes at a time, that's more doable for me, and that was the goal going into Expo East.
Gotcha, because you're saying managing, 50 accounts while being in college would be really difficult, but if you had a couple big accounts where they have hundreds or thousands of stores, it's a lot more manageable for you.
Exactly, yeah. It definitely cuts down on the time invested into it. So. And
how did that go?
Yeah, it went very well. We went from being in 12 stores before the show, and now 2 weeks later, we're in 332 stores, and we're all over the Northeast. So it's really been an incredible jump, and we're really excited to move forward with it.
That's amazing. And so I think that's the best case scenario for anybody at a trade show. That's quick math. That's almost 25 times the amount of stores, or a little bit more than 25 times the amount of stores you had before the show.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. And so you're full-time at Clarkson. What are you majoring in at Clarkson University?
Right now, I've declared global supply chain management. So what I do is I learn how to bring a raw product or raw service all the way through in the most efficient way possible to market. And the classes have benefited me so far, and I've really enjoyed what Clarkson has to offer.
That's awesome. And so, listeners, I met Josh because I was walking the floor at the Expo East trade show, which was, 2 weeks ago now. And so on my badge, it says Colombia and import-export. To be fair, I mostly just export from Colombia, but I have imported in the past. And Josh just came up to me and said, "Hey, do you guys have maple syrup in Colombia?" And that's how we started talking. And so that to me is amazing because you're basically living your major. 99.9% of people, they go to study something in a theoretical sense, or they have an internship or something, but you're actually working, taking raw material from, up the global supply chain. Now,
yeah.
So that's really cool. And Josh, so let's talk a little bit about the maple syrup process. How does that work?
Right. So maple syrup is really it's an incredible process. It really shows the complexity of nature. What we do is we drill a hole in a tree. We collect the sap. The sap is only 2% sugar, 98% water. We put it through a reverse osmosis system to concentrate that sugar down, and then we boil it. And the boiling process of it really, there's no exact science to it. You kind of have to really be in tuned with the process and know how to make syrup in order to know when syrup is finished. And of course, once it's completed, we filter it and pack it. But it's really an amazing process for sure.
Gotcha. Now, so another thing, I'm sure you've seen at the show, and I know you've thought about this. So tell me, like, what's your opinion of the maple water companies?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. Some large companies for maple water, like Vertical Water, they're really taking the national market by storm. It's the fastest growing water industry in the nation. And I think they're doing a great thing. I think that any value added that you can add to the maple industry is really a benefit to all producers and all the farmers across the Northeast, because we're running into a major issue right now because there's an oversupply of syrup every year. Nearly 10 million pounds goes into the cartel of Quebec's federal strategic reserve. And so we need to try to get our products out there, get maple out onto the national stage, and really, really push it. And I think they're doing a great job of that.
Wait, okay. So Josh, I want two follow-ups here. So you said the cartel of Quebec's reserve. Can you elaborate on that? What is that?
Yeah, so there's a government-sanctioned agency called the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers. And what they do is Quebec makes 2/3 of the world's crop of maple syrup. So they have huge influence over the global price of syrup. And what they've done is through government sanctions, they've banded together all of the producers of Quebec. The Quebec producers have to sell to the Federation, and the Federation tells them what price they're going to pay, how much they can produce. And what they've done is they kind of set an artificial bubble for the price of maple syrup. So it's a socialistic policy that is really pulling down production in Quebec, but the United States is benefiting from it because we have a higher price, and it's drawing people into the industry at a very fast rate in the United States. So the United States is expanding nearly 10% every year in production, whereas Quebec is expanding nearly 0%.
Wow. Okay, and then another follow-up on maple water. Is this basically, okay, so you guys are, tapping the trees in spring, right? Where you have that 98% water, 2% sugar when the starch converts into sugar. Is that just basically taking the water and maybe pasteurizing it, but basically taking that water and drinking it? Is that what maple water is?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. People have been doing it for centuries. The Native Americans, that's how certainly they drank the sap before they boiled it off to make syrup. And that's exactly what it is. They just collect the sap and pasteurize it and bring it to market.
Now, so the Native Americans, I could be wrong here, but were they the first also to make maple syrup?
Yes, of course. They in the United States, there's different legends on how it happened. Someone said that they accidentally threw a knife at a tree or something, and they found that the sap was sweet, and or there's another theory that a tree broke and it was dripping sap, and they collected it and maybe boiled their food in it and found that it was sweet, and once again somehow progressed into making syrup. But they didn't make it into syrup usually because they didn't have refrigeration. What they would do is they make it into sugar. So
maple sugar. So out of the two, which one do you think, if you had to guess, which one do you think is the real reason?
I'm not sure. Probably the tree breaking. I think that's more realistic.
Yeah, because I was thinking, sorry to interrupt you. I was just thinking, you'd have to throw that knife pretty hard, right?
Yeah. So I don't know how realistic that is, but I think the second option might be more realistic.
Wow, cool. And okay, so tell me a little bit about 5 years later. So this is while you're still in high school, right? You needed to get an investment to expand the operation. Basically, you needed to get, I guess, was it more trees or a place to do the processing, or both?
Well, really both. There's a huge expenditure in trying to put in the tubing system that's necessary in the woods to collect the sap. And there's also a huge expenditure in the maple facility to turn that sap into syrup. And so I needed to find some money to be able to do that. And I was fortunate enough that my dad could help me get a loan from the bank, and we got the equipment we needed. And we went from making 15 gallons of syrup in 2013, to just over 1,100 in 2014. So the huge jump, and it was a really exciting year. And in that year, I had to learn a tremendous amount of knowledge about the industry, how to produce it, and how to produce it on a large scale. And I was fortunate enough that Michael Farrell from Cornell University at the Maple Research Center there, he kind of took me under his wing. He taught me everything that I know now, and I'm forever indebted to him because he's been a tremendous mentor and a tremendous friend to me through this whole process.
And I see he's the first person on the board of advisors you have.
Yes, yeah, he is. So the board of advisors on parkermaple.com. We put that together to show that our company is guided, and the people that have made this happen are really incredible people. And Mike Farrell is certainly certainly a good mentor.
Right on. And so speaking of mentors, I saw that Marcus Lemonis, who I'm a huge fan of, and we've mentioned on the show before, The Prophet, and he's invested in, I guess, a lot of retail food outfits. He kind of, guys had like a Twitter exchange. Did he ever come to visit you guys?
No, he actually didn't. We exchanged a couple on Twitter. We exchanged on emails. He promised that he would review our application for The Prophet, and I never heard back. So maybe something will come of it for the next season. I don't know. But we're moving forward at a fast pace with or without him, and we're going to make this successful, right? Like I said, with or without him. So
Gotcha. And you have a very unique position, Josh, because you're making these accomplishments at such a young age. It gives you a lot of exposure. It helps for press and all sorts of things. I'm sure you've noticed that, and you can kind of use that to your advantage.
Yeah, that's a huge marketing advantage for us, is that I'm young, and every birthday that goes away. So January 8th of every single year, I turn 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and eventually I become a full-fledged adult. And really this kind of the awe factor maybe of this story goes away. So I have to capitalize on it while I'm young and while I still have it. And that's what I'm trying to do. So it's been incredibly helpful. I never expected to be called a teen entrepreneur when I started. I didn't think of this as a business when I started, but that line, the teen entrepreneur line, has gone on Glenn Beck, on Fox News, on local stations, Time Warner Cable, all of these different places, and it's brought me to heights that I would have never expected to be able to go.
Wow. And yeah, it's amazing. And I guess, so when you were pitching to these stores that you were able to get into, how do you differentiate your maple syrup from the competition?
Yeah, so the story helps me get in the door, but once I enter, then it's gone. The story doesn't matter anymore. What matters at that point, it gets down to business. So it comes down to the numbers, it comes down to the cost of the syrup. But what really makes my syrup different is that it's sourced from my trees, a few local producers, the highest quality syrup in North America. We're not sourcing it from large conglomerate places throughout the United States and Canada. And we have that purity of product that makes it really delicious and really a great product.
Gotcha. And so, and I think that's well said, right? Like, just because you're young, yeah, you might get in the door, they might give you the meeting, but if the product doesn't have good packaging, if the price point's not there, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I think that's a really good point, because it's like, I've seen this a lot between friends and colleagues, and where you may have a friend who's really influential and he can get you a meeting with someone. This happens all the time, right? But that's as far as it goes usually, because, people are not going to put $100,000 into your company just as a favor, right? It has to make sense.
Right.
And so all right, so Josh, you also mentioned, going from 12 stores to over 300, and literally, this was 2 weeks ago. This just happened. You mentioned you have to hire, 4 employees in the next 4 weeks. How are you going to find those employees?
Yeah, so it's difficult. My region in Northern New York is, it's an economically suppressed area. So we don't have very much skilled labor that's just out in the market looking for a job. So what I have to do is I have to put it in the papers, talk to people I know, word of mouth, try to find solid, good team members to join the Parker Maple team and really fill those 4 places that I need filled. What we're doing right now is we're ramping up production. We're trying to make our equipment as efficient as possible. And right now we're just waiting for the bottles to come in and the syrup and everything to get in line. And then 4 weeks down the road, that's exactly when I need to hire. And we'll move forward at a fast pace.
Wow. And you seem pretty confident. Are there any things that keep you up at night?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to fall asleep. Just a lot of numbers just going around your head. You run into, of course, there's always fear, but with faith and hard work, as long as you know that you're putting everything that you can in every single day, the rest will take care of itself, and that's where faith comes in. So I don't worry about where I'm going to be in 6 months or a year, because new opportunities always arise, and things that could completely change the dynamics. I would have never expected a month or 2 months ago, or even 3 weeks ago, to be in 325 stores. But it happened. Now we're here. Now we have to figure out how to deal with it, and how are we going to get into the next 325. And we just take it one step at a time. And that's how I kind of deal with the pressures that go along with having this company.
Wow. And Josh, I mean, to finish up here, so what do you do for fun outside of making maple syrup?
Well, business kind of consumes my life. I don't know. I go to school, I make maple syrup, I spend time with my family, and that's kind of turned into my life so far. But that's the life of a startup business. You have to commit yourself fully to it, and I wouldn't have it any other way, because when I'm not giving it my fullest, working hard, I feel empty, and I feel like I'm not accomplishing all that I can accomplish. And I love the life that this has brought, and I'm really thankful for what it's brought to me. Great.
And so let's just say today it's the end of September 2015. 5 years from now, where do you think about that? Where you'll be done with college by then? Where would you like to be, and what would you like to be doing?
Yeah, I guess in a broad sense, I don't know exactly where I'll be, but my goal is to make Parker Maple the source of maple syrup nationally. And so what that'll take, kind of in general terms, is a larger bottling facility. So I'm seeking investment right now to expand my production, or my bottling capabilities. And then the next step in that is making sales. So basically just moving forward and getting our product out there, and really starting to compete with the largest contenders in the national retail space.
Fantastic. And listeners, this episode can be found at foodstartupspodcast.com/maple, and Parker Maple is at parkermaple.com. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook. So,
all right, and that it's facebook.com/Parker Maple Farm.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciated this, and it was a great experience.
All right. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, find us online at foodstartupspodcast.com.